All right.
There we go. We're officially recording. Joe,
Awesome.
thanks for being here, and I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. So, yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Cabrera Rosas. I am the financial aid advisor that's going to be doing the loan repayment session today. I'm going to go ahead and go through the presentation first, and then we'll do the Q&A session at the end, where you can just jump on and ask me questions, or you can put them in the chat, and we'll get to those. So give me just 1 second here. I'm going to share my screen. And if I can get some thumbs up if you're able to see my screen clearly.
Yep, I've got it, Joe.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so let me move this on out of the way here. Okay. All right, so today we're going to be reviewing loan repayment sessions. The agenda is going to be reviewing what federal student loans are, understanding your loan portfolio. Then we're going to chat about repayment plans, the various options that you have. We'll review a timeline of what to expect when, what to expect shortly before graduation, after graduation, and then once you actually enter repayment. We'll talk about other considerations to keep in mind to help you be successful in the repayment loan journey. And then we'll go ahead and do the questions and answers at the end. So student loans are unlike any other loans out there. They're unlike consumer debt, mortgage, credit card payments, all of that stuff, because they offer flexible repayment terms and conditions. There's the ability to postpone payments via deferment or forbearance, and then there's the ability to get student loans forgiven according to some plans like public service loan forgiveness. And so these basically make them very, very good options for students for school and unlike any other consumer debt out there. So in order to receive federal loans, you had to complete a master promissory note or MPN. And this is basically a legally binding contract where you promise to pay any loans that you've borrowed from Department of Education. And the cool thing about the master promissory note is it has a multi-loan feature. So it's very likely you only had to submit one for Stafford loans for the duration of your program. And this master promissory note also lists the terms and conditions for your loans and your rights and responsibilities. So we'll go into that in just a second. But something that we always recommend that you do is that you download a copy of that MPN because it is a legally binding contract that you signed off on, and you have that easily accessible on your laptop or on a USB or anywhere, just easily accessible. So some of the rights that are listed on the MPN is your right to prepay any federal loan, any student loan without penalties. You are able to request a shorter repayment schedule. You are able to change your repayment plans. Initially, let's say you chose one of the plans and then things change, or you are buying a house, or you're having medical issues, or whatever it is, you can always change plans. And then you can always request deferment or forbearance, which we'll go over vocabulary in a little bit, but basically it's a form to stop payments for an X amount of time. Now, your responsibilities, according to the contract, is to pay your loans on time, whether you get a bill or not. So what that means is that obviously the first time when you are entering your repayment and your first payment due date, you will receive a letter, the information from your loan servicer giving you all of the details as to payment due dates and those types of things. However, you are still responsible to pay on time every month, whether you receive a bill or not after the fact. You're also responsible to update your contact information in the event that you're no longer going to have access to your university email account, or if you're moving, if you're changing your phone number. You always want to make sure that you're updating your contact information through your loan servicer's site, so they're able to easily reach you with any updates. You also need to complete the exit counseling. Now, the exit counseling is available at studentaid.gov when you log in with your FAFSA username and password into your loan portfolio. We send a reminder email to get those completed. Now, if you have any federal nursing loans or any institutional loans, then you would also need to complete an exit counseling through our loan servicer, which is ECSI. And you would receive notification of that as well. So it is possible that some of you guys may have to complete more than one exit counseling, one for federal or Department of Education loans, and one for institutional loans. All right, so lender versus servicer. The lender for a lot of these loans is going to be Department of Education for any unsubsidized or Graduate Plus loans that you took out for the duration of your program. And so that's who you borrowed funding from, would be Department of Education. However, you will likely receive a letter or communication from the loan servicer, which would be some places like Mohela, Nelnet, at Financial Aid Vantage, because they're the ones that are chosen by Department of Education to service the loan, to monitor the payments, and collect payments. And so for institutional loans, the lender would have been CU Anschutz, for example, for a nursing loan, or nurse faculty loan. And then for those, our loan servicer, who is servicing the loan when you enter repayment, would be ECSI. So it is possible for you to potentially have more than one loan servicer, or if you had both federal aid and institutional loans, also need to get repayment schedules sorted with ECSI Heartland, who is our chosen loan servicer. All right, so in order to know who, let's say you don't know who your loan servicers are and you want to make sure that you do prior to entering repayment, what you want to do is review your dashboard at studentaid.gov. When you log in, you will be able to see the details of your principal balance versus the interest accrual. They'll be on two different, they'll be listed separately. And here you'll also be able to see who your loan servicers are. So it's very important that you go loan by loan, because you may have more than one over the last few years, and go each loan, open it, and you'll see who your loan servicer is. You'll see their contact information, their web page information. And that's very important because that can help you decide later on whether or not you want to consolidate if you have more than one loan servicer, or, it'll help you know who to anticipate notifications from once you enter repayment. So again, all of this information, your entire loan portfolio, as far as Department of Education loans, would be available for you to view here at studentaid.gov. Again, if you have institutional loans, those would be through ECSI. So here, what I've done is I've looked into the interest rates and grace periods for the last few years, and I annotated them here for you. So if you received any direct unsubsidized loans in the last few years, this would be the interest that is associated with that loan. Now, what happens is that while the interest is fixed for the life of that one loan, interest can change from year to year. So if you took out a loan in 2023, and then you took in, let's say, July of 2023, and then you took another one out in July of 2024, it is possible they would have varying and different interest rates because it's a different academic year. So this is just important to understand overall. Especially if your bottom line is going to be you're trying to pay off your student loans as soon as possible, to pay the least interest possible. This would be a good resource to use for debt stacking to see which loan you should tackle first, which should always be the higher interest loan. So again, fixed interest rate for the life of that loan, but every year does have a different interest for new loans. Now, if you went through your program and you did not take any leave of absence or were out of the program for longer than 6 months at a time, then that means you didn't enter repayment previously. So you will have a 6 months grace period from the time that you graduate. What that means is that many of you, if you did not take a leave, would not be expected to enter repayment and start making payments on your student loans until sometime in November. Now, if you did take a leave, then what's likely going to occur is that you will enter repayment, or your first payments will be due the month after you graduate, so sometime in June. You only get one grace period. So right now, if you were to log into your loan portfolio, you'll see that the principal balance and the interest is accruing in into two different pots. Now, capitalization is something that occurs to loans after you graduate. And that basically means that now your principal and your interest are lumped into one larger principal. So then you will start accruing interest on interest plus principal. This is a scary thing sometimes for a lot of students, because now you'll see a higher interest accrual depending on which plan you choose to go under usually. But if you are trying to pay off your loans as quickly as possible with as little interest as possible, then it is a good idea and recommended that you contact your loan servicer and you ask them their specific capitalization policy for the direct and plus loans. You can obtain dates or a good time frame from them so that you know prior to this date any voluntary payments that you're making can be applied to principal only or interest only or specific loan to try to help once the capitalization occurs so that you end up saving money over time. So again, you are able to obtain that information from your loan servicer as far as that capitalization policy. And it's typically something that we recommend if you know you're going to end up paying your loans overall. Just helps you save some money on interest payments. Okay, so this next section is going to be vocabulary words. We're going to review a lot of the terms and conditions and what they mean. So loan consolidation or consolidation can be basically means you're taking various loans with various interest rates that you've received over the last few years, couple of years, and you're lumping them all into one major loan, one big loan with one interest rate. So some of the reasons to consolidate would be to reduce the number of servicers. Because if you go through your loan portfolio and you have more than one loan servicer, what that means is that you're going to have to make more than one monthly payment so that you're paying the correct number of loan servicers. Some students don't want to do that because that's more than one payment a month. And so loan consolidation would then house everything, one loan under one servicer, and then you only have to make that one payment. But that's only relevant if you have more than one loan servicer when you review your specific loans. Another reason would be to qualify for income-based repayment, pay-as-you-earn, income-driven repayment plans with the debt-to-income ratio. It also could remain eligible to qualify for public service loan forgiveness, if that's the program that you're interested in. And some of the consequences to loan consolidation would be, it is a new loan. So that means it's going to be new terms and conditions. So you want to make sure that if you do consolidate, then you go ahead and take that new loan paperwork, that new MPN, and save that so it's easily accessible. But what that means is that it could result in an increased interest cost because now you're going from various interest rates to one interest rate across the board. So it can result in increased interest. And it does typically result in a longer repayment term or a longer term, which could be up to 30 years as opposed to the initial 10. A negative effect of loan consolidation is the loss of subsidies. If you happen to have any subsidized Stafford loans that have no interest accrual currently, if they've already entered repayment, then it's not really a negative effect. But it would also be the loss of your grace period, which is something that's very important and we like to point out because you have a 6 months grace period if you haven't entered repayment. And if you consolidate, you do lose the remainder of your grace period. So what we typically recommend for students that are looking into loan consolidation is to not really start this until about the 4th month of you being in the grace period, so that you give yourself enough time for your employer to complete, so that you give yourself enough time to consolidate, submit the paperwork to your loan servicer and get them time to get you enrolled into the loan consolidation, all of your loans into one. So again, the loss of grace period is a big negative effect for loan consolidation. So you don't want to do it early on. All right, deferment. This is something that you guys are currently on, which is in what we call in-school deferment. And it's basically a period where your principal, you're not required to make any monthly payments. However, interest is continuing to accrue on your loans. You do not, again, need to make payments while in deferment. But interest continued to accrue. So that's in-school deferment. Then there's forbearance. And so forbearance is basically a safety feature. So once you graduate, you would no longer be able to do in-school deferment. But let's say something comes up, life happens, and you you won't be able, let's say, that coming up, you won't be able to meet your monthly obligations with making your payment for loans, student loans. So what you can do is you contact your loan servicer, discuss the situation prior to missing any payments, and they can decide along with you what if forbearance would work for you, because it is either a complete stop on making monthly payments, or it could reduce, you guys can decide to reduce your monthly payment for X amount of months. It could be up to 12 months, but that is up to, the paperwork, how long do you need? But the good thing is that you are able to request a forbearance if you are unable to make your monthly payments. Now, interest does continue to accrue even while you're on forbearance. You just can stop payments if that's what's needed at the current for you at that time in your life. But again, this is something you work with your loan servicer directly, and you guys can decide up to 12 months, 6 months, whatever it is needed to get you back up to standing. Now, those are things that we always recommend that you look into if you're having trouble making payments, because if you just decide to not contact anyone and you're starting to miss those payments and your loan servicer can't reach you, then there's really bad consequences for that. And the thing is that your student loans can end up in a delinquent status and a default status, which are very horrible things that we do not want our students to experience. Some of the consequences of delinquency or default on your student loans is that now all of a sudden your entire loan may become due immediately. You would lose the ability to have loan forgiveness, deferment, or forbearance. You're sent to collections and charged many fees. You're reported to the credit bureaus, and so your credit loans, you will get a negative credit history, which is not good. And then obviously the Department of Education can garnish wages or hold your tax refunds. And I think a very horrible one as well. All of these are bad, but when I'm unable to renew your professional license. So, you've come to school, you've done all the work, and now you cannot renew your professional license if you do not contact your loan servicer in time to prevent all of these things. The way you can avoid delinquency or default is knowing the details of your loan debt. I know for a lot of students, it's not a good time to look at your loan accrual or the interest, but it's very important that you understand it so that you're able to tackle it successfully. We always recommend to set up auto pay. And so that will basically make sure that you're not missing any payments. And one of the incentives that loan servicers give is that after 24 on-time monthly payments via auto pay or something of the sort, you get a 0.25% interest reduction. So this is a nice way to chip away at your interest and to make sure that you never miss a payment. It's a nice little incentive added on there. And so obviously you just want to make sure that you're contacting your loan servicer before any payment is late or before missing a payment. So default and delinquency is very easy to avoid. As far as discharge, one of the great features of student loans is the ability to discharge the loan in the event of death or the student's death or total or permanent disability. And so that basically is just peace of mind for the student, because if something were to happen, then your family or your family's not on the hook now or a loved one is not on the hook now for the student loans. The loans have the ability to be discharged. And then I did list a couple of other reasons up here for loan discharge, which basically means that that loan goes away and the monthly obligation goes away. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about repayment plans. So there's traditional repayment plans, and these are, there's three. The first one is the standard repayment plan, and this one is the one that you will automatically be placed in if you just choose not to review all of the plans and choose one that works for you. Then this is the standard. The standard plan is the one that you will be placed in by the loan servicer. And the reason for that, it does result in the highest monthly payment, but because of that, you pay off your debt quicker. And you end up paying the lowest overall interest. It is a 10-year repayment plan. Then there's the graduated plan. That one's still 10 years. It is more expensive than the standard plan, but the thing about this one is that the payment adjusts every 2 years. It operates under the assumption that starting off the bat, once you graduate, you're not making the type of income as you will be in a couple of years and a few years down the road. And so what that does is that your payment will initially be smaller, and then every 2 years that payment is revisited with your income information, and the monthly payment increases typically. So it adjusts every 2 years, but it is a 10-year repayment plan. And then there's the extended plan, which is exactly what that means. The time period is extended from 10 years to 25 years. This one does result in the lowest monthly payments of all three traditional plans, but it is the most expensive interest-wise from the three. And then we have income-driven repayment plans. We have income contingent, income-based, and pay-as-you-earn. We do have some there. You may have the SAVE plan, but that one right now is tied up in courts and litigation. So it's not something that you're able to getting signed up for, but I would say that most of our student population typically leans towards the income-based or pay as you earn. And really, it's because of the discretionary income. And so discretionary income, I did put what that means here on this slide. It's the difference between your adjusted gross income and 150% of the poverty guidelines for the state where you will be working. It is also taking it could also take into consideration family size. And so this, for income-driven repayment plans, the payment is recalculated annually using updated information and household size. And so that's one of the things about income-driven repayment plans is that you need to be able to demonstrate that need or that partial financial hardship annually in order to continue to be eligible for these plans. And because of that, these plans are typically known as safety net options, but they can also be used in conjunction with public service loan forgiveness for those of you that will be working with an employer that qualifies and want to get your max amount of loan forgiven. So we'll talk about PSLF or public service loan forgiveness in just a little bit. But here again are the current 3 income-driven repayment plans: income contingent, income-based, and pay as you earn. So what I recommend that you do prior to entering repayment is you log into studentaid.gov and you use their loan simulator. So if you're logged in with into your account that has your loans on there, you're able to use the loan simulator. You're able to indicate, what state you're going to be working in, AGI, household size, and the loan simulator will calculate or estimate what your payment is projected to be under each of the plans that are active. And then based off of that, you can go ahead and contact your loan servicer and choose a plan that works for you, or discuss the plans that you're most interested in. And so right here is a table of why typically income-driven repayment plans are the way to go for some students, because as you can see here, the monthly amount, the monthly loan obligation is a lot more comfortable than the standard repayment plan is. But again, this is just projected off of a borrower with 100,000 loan debt. But if you're logged into your account, then it'll project your specific monthly amount payments. And then what you can do is choose the top 2, contact your loan servicer and discuss those 2 options. And then you can get into the nitty-gritty of each, income benefits of each, and go from there. So there's good and bad sides really for income-driven repayment plans. Really, the good thing is definitely the lower monthly payments. You are able to use this, any payments that you make under income-driven repayment plans towards the 120 public service loan forgiveness payment options. And really, for a lot of our students, is a temporary solution to at least pay something while you're getting situated. The bad thing about income-driven repayment plans really is the annual paperwork. And so what that means is that you will know very clearly, your loan servicer will tell you by this date, you need to resubmit documentation about your income, household size, tax information, and to continue to prove that you're eligible for these plans. If you forget to submit documentation by their deadline, or you no longer submit any documentation, then you will be placed into the standard traditional repayment plan, which we discussed is the one that results in the highest monthly payment. So, it's just one of those things where you will need to continuously every year do something to make sure that you continue to remain in your chosen income-driven repayment plan. All right, other repayment options. So PSLF, which stands for Public Service Loan Forgiveness. What this means is that you are agreeing to make 120 qualifying monthly payments, and then after this, the rest of your loan is forgiven. There are some tax implications to that, but it's important to note that it's qualifying payments, not consecutive payments. And so it can be used in conjunction with qualifying repayment plans, which includes income-driven repayment plans. But if this is something that you're interested in and you believe you will work with a qualifying employer, then we recommend that you do not pay extra, that you do not make voluntary payments. Capitalization is not going to be something that you're going to be as into if you are thinking about using the public service loan forgiveness plan or program. Only pay what you must on time, no more, no less. That is what's going to give you the max benefit or the max amount of loan forgiven once you make the 120 qualifying payments. Now, we do recommend that you monitor and you're the one tracking your payments. Not because the loan servicer is not going to do a great job, but just because that way, as soon as you know that you've made your 120th payment, you can reach out to the loan servicer, Department of Education at this point, and get that process started to forgiving the remainder of your loan. Now, qualifying employer is typically a nonprofit organization under Section 501c3, but it could be a federal, state, local, or tribal organization. So if you're not sure if your employer qualifies or is what is known as a qualifying employer, what we recommend that you do is you contact the human resources or the HR department with that employer and ask them very specifically, are you an eligible employer? They will know right away typically if they are. And the reason why that's important is because your employer will need to complete a portion of the public service loan forgiveness form in order for you to be actively enrolled in it. All right, and here are other loan repayment programs. If you're part of the military, you also want to look into any benefits that they have, any repayment plans that they can help with as well. But there's other resources here for other things that may be able to help other programs once you enter this repayment. All right, so now we're going to go into a timeline. So what's going to occur after graduation? So after graduation, your grace period begins. This is when you're going to, our school is going to notify the loan servicers of your graduation date, and therefore you'll know when you enter repayment. This is the time when you want to make sure that you're updating that contact information. You want to make sure that you start organizing your finances and determining what repayment plan is going to work for you, for your goals, and you obviously want to be securing employment before repayment begins. If you're doing residencies or something of the sort, it's a time to figure that out now. And then as far as public service loan forgiveness, if that's something that you think you are going to want to partake in, you want to start that process around the 4th month. I do have apply for consolidation on here. You're not required to consolidate your loans if you have all direct loans. If you have loans, though, that are FFEL loans, which will be very specifically labeled on your loan portfolio in studentaid.gov, then you will want to consolidate. Otherwise, you don't have to consolidate in order to be eligible for the public service loan forgiveness plan program. If you are in the military and have to go on active duty or something of the sort, you want to make sure that you're contacting your loan servicer so that your loans are placed back into the required forbearance or deferment. So it's just a time to start getting all your ducks in a row. Repayment notification. So you're going to be receiving a notification from your loan servicer about 60 to 90 days before your first payment is due. After that, you may not always receive a monthly bill, but you still have to make sure that you make a monthly payment. During this time, you also want to make sure you obtain online access to your loan servicer's website so that you can monitor how your payments are being applied, or you can make voluntary payments online. You want to review the repayment plans carefully. You want to submit any requested documentation around this time as well, about 2 months or a month and a half before you enter repayment. If you're going to be doing income-driven repayment plans or public service loan forgiveness or loan consolidation, these are things you want to start completing about a month or two before you enter repayment. And it's just nice to do, so you give your loan servicer time to process the documentation, and so that by the time you start your first payment, you're already enrolled in the plan of your choosing. You are able to make interest-only payments if your goal is to pay off as little as possible. This is also, as far as interest goes, this is also a thing to keep in mind anytime you make voluntary payments. You can always dictate how those payments are applied to your account. And so if you're wanting to make voluntary payments, just go ahead and get those done towards the higher interest loans. Obviously, once you enter repayment, your monthly obligation, you can't dictate how that's applied to your loans, but any voluntary or extra payments, you are able to choose where that's being applied. Just remember that you want to make sure that you choose a repayment plan that's right for you. If things change, though, just remember that there is the possibility of changing repayment plans. So you really want to sit down and think about it, think things through. But if you choose a plan that doesn't work for you, you're not locked into that. There is flexibilities built in. So you want to make sure that you're listing all of your debts, you're prioritizing, and you're paying off the most expensive debts first. There's just some resources here for good financial planning. We also recommend paying off that debt wisely with like variable interest, higher interest loans, and moving on to lower interest loans. You want to make sure that you really understand your debt. Again, anytime you make additional payments or voluntary payments, what you want to do is after you make that payment, let it go through and then go back and verify that the payment was applied how you requested it to be applied. Your loan servicer is not out to get you, but there's always a margin for human error. So what we say is just make sure that your payments, your voluntary payments are applied how you meant for them to be applied anytime you make those additional payments. All right, so should I refinance? So you may have been receiving letters, pamphlets from places like SoFi or just any private lender out there, maybe encouraging you to refinance your student loans with their private agency. So as financial aid advisors, what we typically say is it's not a good idea to refinance because you're eliminating the flexible terms, the flexible repayment plans, the ability to have your loan portions of your loans forgiven via public service loan forgiveness or any other forgiveness plan. So we typically do not advise for it. However, if your bottom line is you want to pay off your loans quick and pay as little interest as possible, then there may be a benefit to refinancing with private agencies. But we always recommend that you do your due diligence, you investigate the agency, you are sure that you're going to get a fixed interest rate or what your variable interest is going to be, that it's actually a good thing for you. Because you want to make sure that maybe the private agency is not able to sell your loan potentially. There's all of those factors. So if your bottom line is debt elimination, refinance may be the way to go. Typically, though, we do not advise for it. Another good thing to do, and just overall, is to monitor your credit. And so I did list the credit agencies here. You do have access to one free credit report from each one of these agencies during a 12-month period. So we recommend that you stagger and you pull those credit reports every few months, once from Equifax, once from Experian, and once from TransUnion every 4 months or so, so that throughout the year you have a good bird's eye view of what your credit is looking like, what is appearing on your credit. It's just good overall. Now, tax deduction. So you will be receiving a 1098E form from your loan servicer at the end of the tax year that may result in tax deductions for any interest paid during that year. So just make sure that anytime tax season is coming up, that you do have this 1098E form from your loan servicer so you can get a tax deduction on any interest paid. I did put the CARES Act here because some of you may have received or seen some of this with your loans. But this is also something that shows the flexibilities really that Department of Education loans offer versus private student loans. The CARES Act basically stopped interest rates, put them at 0%. For a designated amount of time for federal loans, for Department of Education loans, and federal Perkins loans. And so this was something that only Department of Education loans did. Private agencies did not. Anyhow, so I did list on here a good resource if you want to read up on it, but this is also something you may be able to see on your loan portfolio for the designated time frame there with a 0% loan if you did have a loan from 2020 to 2022. For residency and relocation, if any of you guys are doing either a residency or if you're relocating for work, a lot of the times we are unable, actually we are unable to help with any of those funds needed for relocation, but we do have private lenders that offer these types of loans. I've listed a few of the lenders on here. It is important to note these are private lenders, so these are loans outside of school, but they are there and intended to help with either residency or relocation. All right, and overall, really the purpose of this is to help you manage your loans. Don't let it control you. Don't be fearful of the numbers. You're going to have to tackle it anyway. You might as well do it in educated manner. And if you have any questions, you're always able to give us a call, drop by, Zoom in to our Zoom link during our office hours, and we'll be happy to kind of walk you through it. Obviously, you can't choose any plans with us. Those are going to be ultimately through the loan servicer with the adequate paperwork, but we are able to counsel and help. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing now and open it up to any questions.
I don't have any questions, but I wanted to say thank you. That was really helpful.
Oh, thank you. I was starting to panic. I always say I either did a great job or a horrible job if I don't have any questions. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So do you know anything like with the state of how everything is right now and the Department of Education being potentially eliminated, how that would affect the student loans?
Yeah, so there's always talk, right? There's ever-changing policies. So honestly, What we, the best recommendation that we can give is, as of now, all of this still stands. There's all the income-driven repayment plans, there's public service loan forgiveness, all of that still stands. And so, if you were to sign up for any of these programs, we always recommend that you keep your contract and your MPN handy, because that is proof of the contract that you have in place if any of these programs were to go away. As far as like, just keeping an eye on the studentaid.gov website is going to be the best way to follow, to keep up on any policy changes. It is ever changing sometimes, but Department of Education is doing a great job of posting those announcements on their webpage. So honestly, that's what we recommend that you do, is that you check in on that website every few months, especially once you're getting ready to enter repayment. You want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on any Department of Education announcements. You can always give us a call, and we can tell you what the status is at that point. But right now, everything is still business as usual.
Thank you for answering that.
Mhm. Anyone else?
Doesn't seem like it.
All right.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.